The emergency klaxons shrieked through the medical bay as another plasma barrage rocked the ship's hull. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her hands against the gaping wound in the alien warrior's torso, feeling the strange purple fluid that served as blood seeping between her fingers. The Kethmori's breathing rattled like broken glass, each exhale weaker than the last. "You're not dying on my watch." The thought burned through her mind with predatory intensity as she activated the surgical field generators. Harsh white light bathed the operating table, casting stark shadows across scales that shimmered with an oily iridescence. The alien's forearms twitched involuntarily, powerful muscles going slack as shock set in. Around her, the medical bay descended into chaos. Alien nurses scattered as another impact sent instruments flying. Their delicate, gossamer wings couldn't maintain balance in the ship's violent lurching. But Elena didn't move. Her feet stayed planted, knees bent slightly to absorb the ship's motion. Earth's crushing gravity had carved stability into her very bones. While the others stumbled, she remained fixed over her patient like a monument to stubbornness. The wounds were catastrophic. 3 entry points where enemy fire had punched through the warrior's natural armor plating. Internal bleeding that would have killed a human in minutes, but this wasn't a human. Elena's hands moved with surgical precision, her fingers dancing over controls that most species required years to master. The biomedical scanner painted detailed holographic displays in the air around her, alien anatomy laid bare in luminous blue wireframes. The Kethmori's twin hearts were out of sync. The primary cardiovascular chamber leaked fluid into the thoracic cavity, while the secondary struggled to maintain circulation through 6 limbs. No textbook had prepared her for this. But Elena Vasquez hadn't become the youngest trauma surgeon in Earth's colonial medical corps by following textbooks. She'd earned her reputation by keeping soldiers alive when physics said they should be dead. Her hands found the first hemorrhage. The plasma cutter hummed to life, its beam precisely calibrated to seal Kethmori tissue. The alien's scales conducted heat differently than human skin. She had to adjust the intensity 3 times before achieving proper cauterization. Another barrage shook the ship. Emergency lighting flickered, casting the medical bay in brief moments of red-tinged darkness. The Kethmori's vital signs flatlined. Elena's training kicked in with mechanical precision. Her hands found the warrior's primary heart, feeling for the correct compression points through layers of unfamiliar muscle and cartilage. She began manual resuscitation, her palms pressing rhythmically against the alien's chest. 1, 2, 3. The techniques were different, but the principle remained the same. Force life back into a body that had started letting go. 1, 2, 3. Around her, she could hear the panicked chittering of the medical staff. Their translator devices struggled with the rapid-fire alien dialects, but Elena caught fragments. Impossible physiology, human barbarity, should evacuate the patient. Elena ignored them. Her focus narrowed to a single point, the weak flutter she felt beneath her hands. The Kethmori's secondary heart was still trying, still fighting. "You and me both, warrior." She increased the compression force, her earth-trained muscles delivering pressure that would have shattered the ribs of most alien species. But Kethmori bone structure was denser, built for their homeworld's crushing atmospheric pressure. The heart responded, a single, stuttering beat. Elena's hands moved to the surgical tools. The plasma scalpel felt familiar despite its alien design. Sharp instruments were universal constants. She began opening the thoracic cavity, her movements confident and flowing. The ship lurched again. This time, the impact was close enough to make the deck plates buckle. Elena compensated without conscious thought, her body shifting to maintain perfect hand position. The incision continued in a straight line, precise as a geometric theorem. Inside the alien's chest cavity, she found devastation. Shrapnel had punctured both hearts and severed 3 major arteries. Purple blood pooled in spaces where air should flow. Any rational surgeon would have called time of death. But Elena Vasquez had never been particularly rational. Her hands moved deeper into the alien anatomy, feeling for damage she couldn't see. The sensation was strange. Kethmori organs had a different texture than human tissue. Denser, more resilient, but also more complex. The primary heart had 4 chambers instead of 2. The arterial system branched in patterns that defied human logic. Neural pathways ran through muscles in configurations that should have been impossible. Elena adapted. Her surgeon's instincts translated alien physiology into problems she could solve. The arterial tears needed microscopic sutures. The heart chambers required careful pressure regulation. The neural damage was beyond anything she'd ever encountered. Kethmori nervous systems weren't centralized like human brains. Instead, neural clusters distributed throughout their bodies handled different functions. The warrior's combat reflexes, tactical analysis, and pain management all operated through separate biological networks. 3 of those networks had been severed by the shrapnel. Elena stared at the damaged tissue through her magnification lenses. Microscopic nerve endings hung in space like broken fiber optic cables. Under normal circumstances, this type of neural trauma would leave the warrior permanently disabled. Under normal circumstances, Elena wouldn't be operating inside an alien's nervous system with her bare hands. But these weren't normal circumstances. She reached for the neural regeneration unit, a piece of experimental Kethmori technology that their doctors used only in desperate situations. The device looked like a silver spider, its multiple arms ending in microscopic probes. Elena activated the unit and guided its arms toward the severed neural pathways. The machine's probes began the delicate work of reconnecting individual nerve endings. But something was wrong. The regeneration unit couldn't establish stable connections. The neural tissue kept rejecting the synthetic interfaces, treating them as foreign contaminants. Elena frowned, her hands still working inside the alien's chest cavity. She could feel the warrior's life signs weakening again. The temporary repairs to the hearts and arteries were holding, but without neural function, the Kethmori would never regain consciousness. Time was running out. Elena made a decision that would have horrified every medical ethics board in the galaxy. She removed her surgical gloves. Her bare hands touched the alien's exposed neural tissue. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Electricity arced between Elena's fingers and the Kethmori's nervous system. Not the clean, controlled current of medical devices, but something raw and biological. Something that crackled with the bioelectric signature of a human brain. Elena's vision exploded into patterns of light and sensation that had no names in any human language. She felt the warrior's memories flooding into her consciousness, battle-scarred landscapes under purple skies, the weight of ceremonial armor, the taste of blood after victory. But more than memories, she felt the warrior's determination, the absolute refusal to surrender that had kept the Kethmori fighting even as plasma fire tore through armored hide. Elena recognized that determination. She'd felt it every time she'd fought to save a patient who should have died. Every time she'd pushed beyond human limits to preserve life. The warrior felt it too. Through the chaotic neural bridge, Elena sensed the alien's consciousness awakening. Not just physical awareness, but something deeper. Recognition. Understanding. The human surgeon and the Kethmori warrior shared the same fundamental drive, the refusal to let others die. Elena's hands began moving with superhuman precision. Her fingers danced through neural pathways with the confidence of someone who had been born understanding alien anatomy. She could feel the warrior's nervous system responding to her touch, damaged tissue regenerating under the guidance of her bioelectric field. The process should have been impossible. Human neural patterns weren't compatible with alien biology. The electrical frequencies were wrong. The chemical signatures didn't match. But Elena's nervous system was adapting in real time, her brain reconfiguring itself to interface with Kethmori neurology. She could feel her own neural pathways stretching, forming new connections that bridged the gap between species. The ship shuddered under another attack, but Elena barely noticed. Her consciousness had expanded beyond the confines of her human skull. She was simultaneously herself and the warrior, human and alien, predator and protector. Through the Kethmori's senses, she felt the warrior's gratitude. Not the simple appreciation of a patient for a doctor, but something deeper. Recognition from one apex predator to another. You fight death like I fight enemies. The thought came in the warrior's voice, speaking a language Elena had never learned but somehow understood. Elena's response came without conscious intent. Death is just another enemy, and I never surrender. The neural bridge stabilized. Elena felt her consciousness settling back into her own skull while maintaining a thin thread of connection to the warrior. She could sense the alien's thoughts and emotions as distant echoes, like hearing conversations in another room. Elena withdrew her hands from the warrior's chest cavity. The neural tissue had regenerated completely, showing no signs of the catastrophic damage that had existed moments before. Around her, the medical bay had fallen silent. Elena looked up to find herself surrounded by alien medical staff, their expressions ranging from terror to awe. The ship's chief medical officer, a tall, ethereal being called a sithkari, stood at the edge of the surgical field with what might have been horror on her translucent features. Dr. Vasquez, the sithkari's translator device, whispered in accented English, "What have you done?" Elena began closing the warrior's chest cavity with steady, mechanical precision. "I saved a life." But the aliens weren't looking at the successful surgery. They were staring at the monitoring equipment, at the readings that showed two separate life signs occupying the same medical bay. One human, one Kethmari. Both neural patterns synchronized in perfect harmony. The Sithkari chief medical officer backed away from the surgical table as if Elena had become radioactive. "You've created a pack bond between species. That's impossible." Elena stripped off her blood-stained surgical gown and tossed it into the disposal unit. "I'm human. We specialize in impossible." On the table, the Kethmori warrior's eyes opened. 4 pupils tracked independently before focusing on Elena with laser intensity. When the alien spoke, the words came out in perfect English despite having no translation device. "Sister." The simple word sent ripples of terror through the assembled medical staff. Elena felt their fear like a physical presence in the room. She also felt something else, the warrior's newfound understanding of human emotional patterns. Through their neural link, Elena sensed the alien experiencing human determination for the first time. The warrior understood now why humans were called deathworlders. It wasn't just their physical resilience or their technological adaptability. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat, their willingness to break universal laws rather than watch others die. The Kethmari sat up on the operating table, movements fluid despite having been clinically dead minutes earlier. The alien's 4 arms flexed experimentally, testing the repairs Elena had made. "You healed me by making me human." Elena checked the final readings on her surgical equipment. "I healed you by making you family." The word family didn't translate properly into Kethmari, but through their neural link, the warrior understood its full meaning. The human concept of pack bonds that transcended species, genetics, and logic. The ship's intercom crackled to life with the voice of the bridge commander. "Medical Bay, we've received priority communications from the Galactic Medical Council. They're demanding immediate quarantine of the human surgeon pending investigation of unusual neural activity." Elena and the warrior exchanged glances. Through their bond, Elena felt the alien's combat instincts activating. The Kethmari had claimed her as pack, and anything threatening pack became an enemy to be eliminated. The warrior's natural armor began shifting color, taking on the darker hues that indicated battle readiness. Elena placed a hand on the alien's forearm, feeling the dense muscle beneath scaled hide. "Easy, partner. We're not fighting the medical council." "Then who are we fighting?" Elena smiled, and through their neural link, the warrior felt an emotion that had no equivalent in Kethmari psychology. The savage joy that humans experienced when facing impossible odds. "Anyone who thinks they can use our bond as a weapon." Over the ship's communication system, Elena could hear coded transmissions being sent to various government agencies. Word of the successful cross-species neural bonding was spreading through the galaxy at light speed. Within hours, every major power would know that humans could create pack bonds with alien species through medical intervention. Some would see it as an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Others would see it as the most dangerous form of conquest ever developed. Elena began gathering her surgical equipment. Through her bond with the warrior, she could sense hostile ships moving to intercept their vessel. Enemy forces were already mobilizing to capture or eliminate the human who had learned to heal by making others pack. The warrior stood from the operating table, armor plates settling into perfect alignment. 4 arms moved through weapon checks with practiced efficiency. How many enemies? Elena consulted her surgical tablet, reading encrypted fleet positions through her connection to the ship's computer systems. Enough to make this interesting. The warrior's laugh was a sound like grinding stone, but Elena felt the genuine amusement behind it. She'd created more than a medical bond. She'd gained a battle partner who shared her predatory refusal to surrender. Together, they walked toward the medical bay's exit. Around them, alien medical staff pressed themselves against the walls as they passed. Elena could feel their terror through the ship's atmospheric sensors. The humans had learned to heal others by making them human. The implications were staggering. Every wounded alien could potentially become a hybrid consciousness, part human determination and part native ability. Elena opened a communication channel to the bridge. "Captain, this is Dr. Vasquez. I'm recommending immediate departure for Earth space. We have medical data that needs to reach human territory intact." The captain's response came through static-filled speakers. "Doctor, we're surrounded by hostile forces demanding your immediate surrender. They're claiming you've committed crimes against galactic medical ethics." Elena felt the warrior's combat instincts merging with her human stubbornness. Through their bond, she could access Kethmori tactical knowledge, while the alien gained insight into human strategic thinking. "Captain, you have 2 choices. Surrender the surgeon who just invented cross-species consciousness transfer, or trust that humans and their new allies can fight their way out of anything." The bridge fell silent for long moments. Elena could imagine the captain weighing the political implications of protecting a human who had fundamentally altered the relationship between species. Finally, the captain's voice returned. "Doctor, prepare for combat acceleration. We're going home." Elena felt the ship's engines building power for emergency thrust. Around her, the vessel's alien crew secured themselves for the violent maneuvers ahead. But Elena remained standing, her feet planted against the deck plates with the confidence of someone whose homeworld had taught her to fight gravity itself. The warrior stood beside her, 4 arms extended for balance, armor gleaming under the medical bay's harsh lighting. Together, they waited for the battle to begin. Through the viewport, Elena could see enemy vessels closing in formation, their weapons charged with the distinctive glow of plasma arrays. The alien commanders believed they were dealing with a single human surgeon and her patient. They were about to discover that humans didn't create victims when they healed. They created family, and human families protected each other with the fury of Deathworld predators. Elena smiled as the first enemy barrage lit up space around them. The warrior's 4 hands found weapon controls, movements guided by human tactical instincts and alien warrior training. The pack bond had made them both more dangerous than either could have been alone. Let them come.